What's up, guys? Nuance bro checking in, and today we're going to be talking about the impeachment inquiry that Nancy Pelosi just announced against Donald Trump. And we got a lot of details to cover, so let's get into it. So on Tuesday afternoon, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, came out and said that she was starting an official impeachment inquiry of the president.
The actions taken to date by the president have seriously violated the Constitution, especially when the president says, Article 2 says I can do whatever I want. For the past several months, we have been investigating in our committees and litigating in the courts, so the House can gather all the relevant facts and consider whether to exercise its full Article 1 powers, including a constitutional power of the utmost gravity, approval of articles of impeachment. And this week, the president has admitted to asking the president of Ukraine to take actions which would benefit him politically. The actions of the Trump presidency revealed the dishonorable fact of the president's betrayal of his oath of office, betrayal of our national security, and betrayal of the integrity of our elections. Therefore, today, I'm announcing the House of Representatives moving forward with an official impeachment inquiry. I'm directing our 6 committees to proceed with their investigations under that umbrella of impeachment inquiry. The president must be held accountable. No one is above the law.
Now, as you can see from this Politico article, Democrats look to narrow impeachment focus to Trump-Ukraine scandal. House Democrats are coalescing around a strategy to narrow the focus of their impeachment inquiry to President Donald Trump's interactions with the president of Ukraine, an issue that has unified the party in outrage and motivated some Democrats to seek expedited action. The strategy described by Democratic lawmakers and aides familiar with the talks would center on streamlining the consideration of articles of impeachment to focus exclusively on Trump's efforts to pressure Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to investigate Joe Biden. A push they say included an implicit threat to withhold military aid to the Eastern European country. So we hear them talking about Trump and Ukraine, but what is this exactly about? Well, the basic gist of it is that Trump had a phone call with the president of Ukraine, and in that phone call, he effectively pressured him, offering a quid pro quo, saying that he would withhold military aid unless they gave him dirt on Joe Biden, and which is his political opponent. Now, the way we found out about this whole situation is because a whistleblower who was in the intelligence community decided to report this whole situation, and the Inspector General of the intelligence community basically determined that this was a credible complaint, and they moved forward from there. Now, it was also found that the Intel IG found that the whistleblower has arguable political bias against Trump, but that the complaint is still credible. Now, after this, people, of course, wanted to see the official whistleblower complaint. They wanted to see the official transcripts of the actual phone call that took place between Trump and the Ukrainian president. But then when they requested those documents, they found out that apparently the White House was trying to stonewall and prevent the Congress from getting that information, getting the official whistleblower complaint. And it started off this whole thing and eventually led to Nancy Pelosi wanting to start the whole impeachment process, the impeachment inquiry, which then led Trump to announce that he was just going to release the transcript. As you can see here, I am currently at the United Nations representing our country, but have authorized the release tomorrow of the complete, fully declassified and unredacted transcript of my phone conversation with President Zelensky of Ukraine. You will see it was a very friendly and totally appropriate call. No pressure, and unlike Joe Biden and his son, no quid pro quo. This is nothing more than a continuation of the greatest and most destructive witch hunt of all time. And of course, after Nancy Pelosi announced that she was going to start an impeachment inquiry, Donald Trump tweeted again, Secretary of State Pompeo received permission from Ukraine government to release the transcript of the telephone call I had with their president. They don't know either what the big deal is. A total witch hunt scam by the Democrats. And on Wednesday, by order of the president, the memorandum was declassified and released. And you can see it's not exactly a transcript, as you can see noted here. Caution, a memorandum of a telephone conversation, telcon, is not a verbatim transcript of a discussion. The text in this document records the notes and recollections of Situation Room duty officers and NSC policy staff assigned to listen and memorialize the conversation in written form as the conversation takes place. Now, as we can see from this memorandum, the conversation was about 30 minutes long, and as you can see, the conversation takes place over a few pages here and ends right here. And you can see they talk about a lot of stuff here. You can see they talk about how Trump should travel to Ukraine and how they should take maybe the president's plane because his plane is better than the Ukrainian president's plane. And you can see Trump mentioning how the United States helps Ukraine a lot, but that the Europeans don't do as much as they should, and that really bothers him, like Angela Merkel, how she talks about Ukraine but doesn't really do anything. And then the president of Ukraine kind of butters him up by saying, yes, you are absolutely right, not only 100%, but actually 1,000%. But what's at the center of this whole impeachment inquiry is this portion right here, where President Trump says, the other thing, there's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you can do with the attorney general would be great. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution. So if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me. People also point out to other portions of the memo where Trump says things like, I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike. I guess you have one of your wealthy people. The server, they say Ukraine has it. So as you can see here, the memorandum gets kind of weird because obviously it's not, Trump probably didn't say these exact words. There's probably some things missing here because of the reasons we talked about earlier, because this doesn't fully make sense, but you can basically see the gist that he's trying to get information on Hillary Clinton's emails or the DNC emails or something like that. But before Trump mentioned that I would like you to do us a favor, though, there was this part by the president of Ukraine who said, I would also like to thank you for the great support in the area of defense. We are ready to continue to cooperate for the next steps. Specifically, we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes. So people took these statements from the transcript or memorandum, whatever you want to call it, and they basically said this showed that Trump was colluding with the Ukrainians, a foreign power, to interfere in U.S. elections by gaining political dirt on his opponent, Joe Biden, and that this was a violation of U.S. law. Now, it's a little more complicated than that, and we're going to get into that a little bit later in the video, but I think it's important to actually focus on this Joe Biden's son deal that they keep talking about in this transcript/memorandum. What is that really about? What's the deal there? Because I think if you understand that, it really makes a lot of the rest of this story make sense. So we can start by looking at this Vox article that says the facts behind Trump's bogus accusations about Biden and Ukraine, although, we can ignore that title and just look at the substance of what's in the article. And if we scroll down, Hunter Biden joined the board of a Ukrainian company while it was under investigation. The facts of this story begin in April 2014 when Hunter Biden joined the board of a Ukrainian natural gas company named Burisma Holdings. Shortly after, his business partner in an investment and consulting firm, Devin Archer, came aboard. Although Biden had no apparent expertise in the field, he had helped Burisma previously as a consultant with expertise in dealing with multinational regulations, and he was employed at a law firm retained by Burisma's owner, former Ukrainian government official Mykola Zlochevsky. When Biden joined Burisma's board, both the company and Zlochevsky were already subject of intense controversy. Zlochevsky had served as a top official for Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych and was forced out of office in early 2014, in part due to concerns over rampant corruption. Zlochevsky was accused of corruption as well, including for steering large government contracts to companies he owned. One party investigating these allegations was the United Kingdom, because Zlochevsky had $23 million in a British bank account that UK officials believed has been laundered. Britain's Serious Fraud Office froze that account, and shortly after Yanukovych left office in February 2014, sent a request to Ukrainian officials for documents it believed would help it prove its case. Following this request, the new Ukrainian government began its own investigation into Zlochevsky, looking into whether he embezzled public money. Now, as you can see here, this is the official Burisma press release that they put out when they hired Hunter Biden back in 2014. And it says, Hunter Biden joins the team of Burisma Holdings. Burisma Holdings, Ukraine's largest private gas producer, has expanded its board of directors by bringing on Mr. R. Hunter Biden as a new director. R. Hunter Biden will be in charge of the holdings legal unit and will provide support for the company among international organizations. So it's interesting that they say in the press release that Hunter Biden came on to be the head of the new legal unit because Hunter Biden seems to have a sort of different idea of what he did at the company. Going back to that Vox article, we can see, in the midst of these troubles, Hunter Biden accepted a Burisma board seat and was paid for his trouble, sometimes as much as $50,000 per month. It is unclear what he did for the company. Burisma said at the time that Biden, a lawyer, would be in charge of a legal unit. Biden told the New York Times in May 2019 that this was incorrect. At no time was I in charge of the company's legal affairs. So the company says they're bringing him on to be the head of the legal team, but then Hunter Biden says he was never the head of any sort of legal team whatsoever. So what exactly did he do there? Because it seems so far that he was getting paid $50K a month to essentially do nothing other than being the son of the vice president of the United States, which it gets pretty interesting from there. So last year, Joe Biden was giving a speech at the Council on Foreign Relations, and he said this.
I was, not but it just happened to be, that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones. So I got Ukraine. And I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
So here you see a story about Joe Biden going over to Ukraine with this idea of giving them loan guarantees of up to $1 billion, and that he had prior commitments from the former president Poroshenko that they were going to fire the state attorney. This is the same attorney that was looking into the business that Joe Biden's son was appointed to the board of after investigations were announced. Not suspicious at all. So then he tells them, oh, if you don't fire this prosecutor, you're not going to get the $1 billion. That's quite the definition of quid pro quo. You do this, then you get this. If you don't do this, then you don't get this. Now, that was nowhere to be seen in Trump's comments to the Ukrainian president, the new Ukrainian president, but that's exactly what Joe Biden did. So what they're accusing Trump of doing is exactly what Joe Biden did. Now, to be fair, there's no evidence so far that he's necessarily doing this because his son worked for a company that was being investigated by the state prosecutor, but it's definitely a conflict of interest that he didn't remove himself from. We're going to get into some of that in a little bit, but in this article from The Hill, published April 1st, 2019, Joe Biden's 2020 Ukrainian nightmare, a closed probe is revived. And if we scroll down, we get a little more detail. Interviews with a half dozen senior Ukrainian officials confirm Biden's account, though they claim the pressure was applied over several months in late 2015 and early 2016, not just 6 hours of one dramatic day. Whatever the case, Poroshenko and Ukraine's parliament obliged by ending Shokin's tenure as prosecutor. Shokin was facing steep criticism in Ukraine and among some U.S. officials for not bringing enough corruption prosecutions when he was fired. But Ukrainian officials tell me there was one crucial piece of information that Biden must have known but didn't mention to his audience. The prosecutor he got fired was leading a wide-ranging corruption probe into the natural gas firm Burisma Holdings that employed Biden's younger son, Hunter, as a board member. U.S. banking records show Hunter Biden's American-based firm, Rosemont Seneca Partners LLC, received regular transfers into one of its accounts, usually more than $166,000 a month, from Burisma from spring 2014 through fall 2015, during a period when Vice President Biden was the main U.S. official dealing with Ukraine and its tense relations with Russia. The general prosecutor's official file for the Burisma probe, shared with me by senior Ukrainian officials, shows prosecutors identified Hunter Biden's business partner Devon Archer and their firm, Rosemont Seneca, as potential recipients of money. Shokin told me in written answers to questions that before he was fired as general prosecutor, he had made specific plans for the investigation that included interrogations and other crime investigation procedures into all members of the executive board, including Hunter Biden. So you have the former prosecutor right there in his own words saying that he actually had plans to investigate the whole company, the entire executive board, including Hunter Biden, and then he got fired. Now, to be fair, the prosecutor who took place after him actually disputed this, and he actually said in this Bloomberg article you can see here, written in May 2019, Ukraine prosecutor says no evidence of wrongdoing by Biden's. And we can scroll down. Yuri Lutsenko, the current prosecutor general, said that neither Hunter Biden nor Burisma were now the focus of an investigation. I do not want Ukraine to again be the subject of U.S. presidential elections, Lutsenko said in an interview Tuesday in his office in Kiev. Hunter Biden did not violate any Ukrainian laws. At least as of now, we do not see any wrongdoing. So people use this as evidence to say, look, see, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden did nothing wrong. They were cleared. They're no longer doing the investigation. But to that, I would say, well, no crap. That's exactly why the previous guy was fired, was because he was probably looking into this case. So he was fired and replaced with a new guy. Now, this new guy, it's very interesting because they rushed to fire the old guy. But when they appointed this new guy, they literally had to change the rules because this guy doesn't even have a law degree. As you can see from here, from May of 2016, Rada adopts bill allowing Lutsenko to be nominated prosecutor general. The adopted amendments to the law on prosecutor's office stipulate that any citizen of Ukraine may be appointed for the post of prosecutor general who is a law graduate with work experience in the field of law or work experience in legislative and/or law enforcement bodies of at least 5 years. Earlier, the relevant article said that the nominee must have a law degree and work experience in the field of law of at least 10 years. Now, of course, they had to change the law because this new prosecutor didn't fit that description because he didn't even have a law degree. So they kind of seemed to put him in there because he would do whatever he was told. And if you look at this guy, he's got a criminal history. I mean, not kind of a dicey character. And of course, he was recently replaced as well a few months ago. Now you might say, okay, so Biden's son, same country, conflict of interest, but Biden says he actually never spoke to his son about his business dealings. He purposefully says he never talked to his son about his business dealings, as you can see here in USA Today. In an article published September 21st, 2019, Biden, I never talked to son Hunter about overseas business dealings. Former Vice President Joe Biden said Saturday he hasn't spoken to his son Hunter Biden about his overseas business while forcefully calling again for an investigation into President Donald Trump's July phone call with Ukraine's president. I have never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings, Biden said. Here's what I know. Trump should be investigated. The problem there is that his own son, Hunter, actually contradicts him, as you can see in this article in The New Yorker. Published July 1st, 2019, Will Hunter Biden jeopardize his father's campaign? Several former officials in the Obama administration and at the State Department insisted that Hunter's role at Burisma had no effect on his father's policies in Ukraine, but said that nevertheless, Hunter should not have taken the board seat. As the former senior White House aide put it, there was a perception that Hunter was on the loose, potentially undermining his father's message. The same aide said that Hunter should have recognized that at least some of his foreign business partners were motivated to work with him because they wanted to be able to say that they are affiliated with Biden. A former business associate said, the appearance of a conflict of interest is good enough at this level of politics to keep you from doing things like that. In December 2015, as Joe Biden prepared to return to Ukraine, his aides braced for renewed scrutiny of Hunter's relationship with Burisma. Amos Hochstein, the Obama administration's special envoy for energy policy, raised the matter with Biden but did not go so far as to recommend that Hunter leave the board. As Hunter recalled, his father discussed Burisma with him just once. Dad said, "I hope you know what you are doing." And I said, "I do." So Joe Biden says he never talked about it. His son says they talked about it once. Me personally, I suspect it was probably a little bit more than once, but we know it wasn't zero. Now, the icing on the cake really has to be the fact that the same Democrats that are trying to impeach him over this whole thing and accusing him of colluding with a foreign power and on a political enemy, and that's a violation of US law, well, those same people have done exactly what they're accusing the president of doing. Not just Joe Biden, but the DNC, for example. On this article from The Hill, published May 2nd, 2019, Ukrainian embassy confirms DNC contractor solicited Trump dirt in 2016. And if we scroll down, in its most detailed account yet, the Ukrainian embassy in Washington says a Democratic National Committee insider during the 2016 election solicited dirt on Donald Trump's campaign chairman and even tried to enlist the country's president to help. In written answers to questions, Ambassador Valerie Chaley's office says DNC contractor Alexandra Chalupa sought information from the Ukrainian government on Paul Manafort's dealings inside the country in hopes of forcing the issue before Congress. Chalupa later tried to arrange for Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko to comment on Manafort's Russian ties on a U.S. visit during the 2016 campaign, the ambassador said. Chaley said that at the time of the contacts in 2016, the embassy knew Chalupa primarily as a Ukrainian-American activist and learned only later of her ties to the DNC. He says the embassy considered her requests an inappropriate solicitation of interference in the U.S. election. In addition to that, Chris Murphy, on his own U.S. State Senator website, published September 11th, 2019, you can see him say, "No Ukrainian officials that we met with brought Rudy Giuliani up on their own. I raised it with President Zelensky. Just made the point that if Ukrainian government gets requests from the embassy, that's different than getting requests from a political actor in the United States. In order to keep the United States-Ukraine relationship strong, it was much better for the president to rebuff any pressure he's getting from political campaigns in the United States to conduct investigations," said Murphy. Murphy continued, "Zelensky wasn't surprised that I brought it up. His response was pretty simple, that they have no intention of getting involved in an American election. But we didn't talk in depth about the nature of the contacts and no one brought it up to us. I raised it with President Zelensky." So here you see Senator Murphy effectively telling the president of Ukraine that if he wants to keep the relationship between the United States and Ukraine strong, he'll stay away from conducting investigations that maybe some political campaigns in the United States are asking him to do. So he's saying basically, if you conduct those investigations, the relationship might not be as strong. So could that be sort of a threat or pressure on Senator Murphy's part? Also, on May 4th, 2018, you had 3 senators who sent a letter to General Prosecutor Yuri Lutsenko in Ukraine, basically saying, oh, well, we have a strong relationship. Our relationship is built on a foundation of respect for the rule of law and accountable to democratic institutions. And basically saying, you know, you have all this economic and political pressure from Russia. We've supported you in that capacity, but it looks like you're doing some bad stuff with respect to the investigation into Trump by Mueller. So, you know, if people are talking about, oh, well, Trump might have not explicitly threatened or done anything saying he would withhold funds from Ukraine, but it was implicit, you could argue that these 3 senators, Robert Menendez, Dick Durbin, and Patrick Leahy, were implicitly saying that they would take support away from Ukraine if they didn't help in this investigation, which would harm a political opponent, Donald Trump. So the level of hypocrisy here is just off the charts. They're basically accusing the president of something that they themselves have done, but he has to pay the price for it. They don't have to pay the price for it. When Nancy Pelosi came up and said that nobody is above the rule of law, well, she forgot to mention Hillary Clinton, James Clapper, all different kinds of people, all these senators that we've mentioned, apparently they're above the law. But, John Brennan, forgot him as well. But all these people are above the law, but President Trump, has to pay the price. And we all know why they're doing it. They don't want to go to the election. They don't want it, let it go to the people. Because if it goes to the people and they have the election, they're scared that Trump will win a second term. And you've heard Nancy Pelosi say a million times, we cannot afford a second term of Donald Trump. You've heard other senators or congressmen say it as well.
But we cannot accept a second term for Donald Trump.
Are you concerned that impeachment talk may actually help the president's reelection?
I'm concerned that if we don't impeach this president, he will get reelected.
That seems to really be the motivation here, not because there was an actual genuine violation of law that Trump should be impeached for. So what do I think about this whole situation? I think I've already kind of said it in this video. I didn't really see anything in this memorandum/transcript that was really a violation of law. There was no quid pro quo. If he was getting dirt on a political opponent, there has to be the intent to do that, not just to look into some sort of criminal matter or see if the law was violated. He didn't even really mention any sort of military aid with the president of Ukraine. And he referred it to his attorney general. He said, talk to my attorney general about it. They're trying to conduct investigations. He's the head of the executive branch. That's kind of what you do. We cooperate with other foreign countries all the time, sometimes even to investigate American citizens. I mean, the other senators you saw didn't seem to have a problem with that when they sent their letter trying to investigate Trump. So this whole thing to me seems like a nothing burger. I feel like once the Democrats decided that they wanted to go down the path of impeachment, that they kind of made their bed and they're kind of sticking to this thing come hell or high water. And they're going to say, oh, the transcript said everything we said it would say, and it's the worst thing ever, and Trump must be impeached, even though they probably saw it and said, oh, crap, it's not as bad as we thought, but we already said we're going to do this, so we might as well go all the way with it. Otherwise, we risk looking really, really bad. So, yeah, those are my thoughts, guys. Decided to make this video for you. What did you think? What are your thoughts about this whole thing? Leave your comments down in the comments section down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Social media links are in the description box below, as well as merch. And I'll see you next time, bro.